Well done for getting this far, guys. I know the back office can be a little bit boring to set up, but it is really important. Before we go running off, diving headfirst into frantically building all these pages, we need to have a clear idea of actually what we're going to build. If you just begin by building willy-nilly with no real strategy, it will actually take you longer to lay out your page, because you won't be able to see your overview of your page. And as you start building, your style might change, and then the top half of the page may look different to the bottom, and also different pages look different to each other. So to make sure that we've got a strong continuity throughout our entire website, it's ideal to design the pages first and then look at building it later. So before I start building for my clients, I always ask them, what is it that they want out of this? You know, how do they want their website to look? So we sit down and we have a quick chat and we discuss kind of keywords or, you know, key style that they really want to work on. So things like creative, professional, clean, approachable, playful, minimal, informative, you know, just throw around a load of ideas like that. Think of what keywords that you really think sum up how you want your website to look. Once we have a clear understanding of the branding, we now need to do a little bit of research to see what other websites out there that are similar to our industry that we like the look of. So I tend to find kind of 2 or 3 websites that kind of fit that criteria and I really like the look of. They could be simple, they could be clean, they could be really approachable, could be anything really. And then what I do is I look at different elements of those websites that really work, and I go, okay, we could use this one for the homepage, we can use this bit for our contact us, we can use this bit to really drive across our company message. And then what I do is I cobble all those together in a Frankenstein-esque kind of sketch to get my general structure for the website. Now, if you've got image editing software like Photoshop or Illustrator, you can actually, you know, take your images and plonk them onto the page and start to lay things out like that. But really, you can do this with just a pen and paper. So what I'll do is I'll draw a quick sketch of how I want it to look. So here's a quick kind of sketch that I drew of the homepage that we're going to build. And then what I do once I've got the layout, I'll go online and I'll look for some royalty-free images that I can use. Or edit and make some of my own. And then I'll take that and put it into Photoshop and I'll place them into position and just give it a little bit of tweaking to kind of get the overall design together. Once I'm happy with that, I'll send that over to the client and then they can look at it and, you know, give their approval, and then we can start the build. And what we're going to do first is we're actually going to lay out a page together. I've actually attached further on in this topic a link. If you click that link, you'll actually download some of the images that we're going to use. So we're going to build this page together, and we're going to go through different techniques so that you can see how each one works. Then hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you'll have a good idea of how to build a page. So now that you've downloaded all those images, we now need to optimize those so that they're not huge files that will slow your website down or take up a lot of server space. Now, the more we can save on server space, the cheaper it will be for you guys, because you won't have to keep upgrading your package. So a lot of the times when you optimize images, you can actually go from the original image and save up to 80%. So it is well worth doing. So we're going to dive into that first. We're going to look at how to optimize the images that you've just downloaded. And then we're going to jump into WordPress back office and we're going to start building that page together. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's always worthwhile laying out your website before you start building. So for this tutorial, I'm actually going to build this fake web page that I've just laid out here. The brand's called Go Snorkeling, and I've just kind of thrown a bit of images together and laid things out. So I'll quickly go through that with you now so you can see how it looks. But as I mentioned before, I always start with sketching it out on a piece of paper. Draw out the boxes, you know, where you want the images to go, and then if you do have a program like Photoshop or Illustrator, you can actually lay the images out and see how they look from there. If you don't panic, don't worry, you can always you know, do it on your website and then tweak it as you go. The important thing is to just, make sure you have a draft first so that, you're confident in what you're going to build. So this is the draft that I've made. It's just a very rough one. So this is the home page. We've got a short kind of introduction that goes snorkeling, and this will be a button. Then we've got this nice image in the background. I'm going to create a little banner here with kind of 3 selling points of the business. So, maybe eco-friendly, 0 emissions, and, another kind of feature. We'll figure that out as we go. Then we'll have a little bit of a title and a brief about the company. And then also a bit about a promo that they do with a button to that. And then just another nice image here. Next we have more selling points about the company, but just it's a good way to kind of list them clearly. So we'll have 3 clear selling points that really drives home the fact that you should choose Go Snorkeling for your snorkeling needs. And then some other kind of quirky things like basking shark expeditions and tickle a turtle, and then a nice customer review there. The button up here, we're actually going to have, when you click it, link us to this section here, which is about the adult only boat party. And then we're going to have a contact us page and then just a footer to close. So the beauty of doing it on Photoshop and Illustrator is that you can zoom out like this and see how your website looks as a whole. But if I was to do just a drawing, I'd just draw kind of, write these words in, draw a little box for the button, and then just kind of a quick sketch of the image that I want to use. And then I'd work my way down, draw these things in very roughly. And that can give you a good indication of how a website will look. So now that you've seen how it will look, this is kind of what we're going to come out with at the end. It may look slightly different because as we go to build it on WordPress, we may find that the width of the page or certain little nuances might mean that this changes as we go, and that's not a problem. It's just always good to have kind of a bit of a clearer idea as you build. Now, hopefully you've all downloaded the images that are in the link to this tutorial. If not, do that now, and we're going to now walk through how to optimize or compress these images so that they load faster on our WordPress website. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick tip for those of you that do have Photoshop or Illustrator. If you are working in Illustrator and you're looking to put images on your website that you've done in Illustrator, always copy them to Photoshop first, then export them, because the file sizes will be much smaller. I've already done all of these images and made them smaller, but I'm just going to quickly show you what I mean with the last one. So we've got this image here of the tickle the turtle, this image here. So we need to decide what kind of image size we want to export this at. Now, I have mentioned before about image sizes, but just to quickly cover it, this would be classified as a banner. So you want to be using something that's between 1200 pixels to 2000 pixels. This is quite a small image here, so you could probably get away with using something that is probably 700 to 1000. And then these images here are very small, so you could probably get away with probably 300 to 500 pixels. So this image here currently is 3794 by 5145, which is incredibly huge. Now, as I just mentioned, because this is a small image, I think we could probably get away with 700 to 800. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put 800 in to do that. And as you can see, we've already saved 85% memory just by doing that. So we're going to export that. And I've very ununiquely just named them image 8, image 1 through 9. So let me close this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this over onto my other screen, and then we're going to talk through the process of the build. I may refer back to this later. now that you've downloaded the images, we'll have them all stacked up here. Now, some of them are okay sizes. You know, we've got them at 400 kilobytes. And if you open them up, they're not too pixelated. But what we want to do is we want to take them that extra step and really compress that file size down so that we can squeeze the most out of it. So bear in mind, for this image already, we've saved 85%. If you come to your web browser and type in tinypng.com, now the image file that we're going to look at for this topic is image 9, but I'm just going to upload them all. So you can either highlight them and drag and drop them, or if you click on the box like that, you can locate it on your desktop. So I'm just going to drag and drop them in and let them run. So on that image 9, which I showed you before we even optimized it, we'd saved about 85%. And of that 15% that's remaining, we actually managed to compress this image again by another 65%. So, you know, that's half again. So we probably saved about another 7.5%. So from the original image, we're actually probably only working with about 8% of the original image size, which is incredible when you think about it. So if we can look at optimizing our images like that, it will really save our server speeds and also our server space, which is important because the more space you take up, the more it will cost. So once these have all downloaded, just click download all, and that should download them again as a new zip file. Open the zip file, highlight them, and just drag them back over to the original file. And then we just want to replace them all. So now we know that all the images are replaced. So this image here, we've actually saved, as we just mentioned, you know, probably 90% plus. But if we look at the image, we haven't lost really any quality. And this is probably twice the size of how the image will appear on the website. So we could probably take it even further, but I don't want to take it too further in case we start getting granulated images. Now, the ideal size is under 100 kilobytes. So if I was building this for a client and wanted to spend a bit more time, I'd look at each one and see that, you know, 414 is a bit high. You know, this one needs working on. But for the sake of this, you know, this won't be an issue. So now that we have our images optimized, we now want to look at our color theme. So I'm just going to pull back open our Photoshop. Now, if you don't have Photoshop, you can do this. It will just take a tiny bit longer. But the colors that I used came originally from this background and this image here. So we're looking at this blue. So if we get the color grab and we highlight that, this will give us our hex code here. So we want to save this hex code for later. Now there's a really great color identifying app that I like to use called coolers.co. So if you don't have Photoshop, I'd recommend going this way. If you do have Photoshop, still go this way, and you can find colors that actually complement the color scheme that you're working with. So it's really straightforward. What you do is you just keep hitting spacebar, and it will just transition through different colors until you find a color you like. Let's say this blue. You click the lock there, and you keep hitting spacebar, and it will give you complementary colors you can work with. Now, as I've just shown you, we already know our hex code, so I've copied it and I'm going to paste it in here. So this is the color code that we're working with. You can actually, if you click this button, change the shades, but this is okay. So let's lock it and just have another little flick through to see if any colors stand out. Say you found one and went past it, because I spotted one here. This would be a nice complementary color that we could use with it. Again, you just hit lock and you keep it in spacebar until you find another color that you like. So this one here. So these three colors would build up a nice clean color palette. We've got, you know, maybe a primary color for our text, like we have here. This can be for, you know, subtext maybe, and then this could be our hover color for when you hover over a button. So that's how you strategize and flesh out your web page idea before you start building. Now let's look at setting up the new page and getting it blank so that we can start building with Elementor. Okay, so I've just logged into my dashboard. Obviously we could do with updating it a little bit, but I'm going to ignore that for now. As I mentioned, as long as you're updating your website kind of every 2 to 4 weeks, you should be okay. So let's go to pages, and we've already created our homepage in the tutorial. For this exercise, I do recommend that you build a test page so that you can lay this all out, mess up a little bit, and then at the end of the tutorial, just delete it and then start afresh on your home page. The advantages of this is it's much easier to start building on a clean slate than it is to adapt what you already have. So when you come to build your actual page later on, come in and edit the home. But for now, let's just set up a test page that we can edit. So I'm going to call this one Go Snorkeling. Now we want to change the content layout to 100% full width. And we want to change title to disable. Publish again. And then let's just quickly view the page to make sure everything is blank, which it is. So now we're going to mount Elementor. So there's the little edit with the Elementor box. Click that. And then that will mount Elementor to your home screen. So we're ready to start building now. So in the next tutorial, we're actually going to look at how to lay out a lot of what we've just shown on our preview. So make sure you follow through with the next tutorial.